It's time for Planet Green.
We have launched.
We've completely launched. We've started the show, and it is Planet Green Trees. We're about to embark 2 hours of medical marijuana and marijuana reform in Michigan.
Planet Green Trees.
Attention, ladies and gentlemen. The Planet Green Trees show is underway with your host, attorney Michael Komorn.
Alrighty.
We have launched.
Welcome, everybody. Listen to Planet Green Trees TV, episode number 553. I'm your host, Michael Komorn of Komorn Law PLC. And today's date is 3/17/2022. We're a little news and information and topic discussion podcast. Been doing it for a long time. Got a lot of good library cataloged history of some of the events that have transpired over the years about cannabis in Michigan, cannabis reform, medical marijuana. And we're back for our 553rd episode to continue that dialogue and maybe even expand into other areas and topics. But we're calling the show No Blank Spaces. And tonight's guest that we have lined up here is Josey Scoggin from the Great Lakes Expungement Network. And Tommy, I don't think our other guy's here. Is that right? Okay, all right. And I have surrounding me a number of people here in the studio to help contribute to the entertainment value, comedy that you should be expecting at high levels. Let me go around and introduce everybody. We have the Bunker Boys, Tommy, Justin's not here, and Dan.
Dangerous Dan.
And now that he seems to be removed from the seat that he usually is in, he's now moved to another spot.
I have.
Please welcome the one and only Jim Powers.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, everybody. It is good to be here on this St. Patrick's Day. We've got an exciting show planned for everybody and looking forward to it.
That's right. And moving around the room, the rover here at Komorn Law and my dear friend and retired police officer, detective from Canton. Please welcome Steve Miller.
Hello, sir. Thank you. Happy St. Patty's Day.
That's right.
We all forgot to wear green, so I guess we'll just smoke it.
For those of you keeping score at home and know Ben Rossman of PsyLab, it's his birthday today. And he tells a funny story like how over the years he'd be out celebrating his birthday and his friends from high school would call him drunk from a bar and say, "Hey, Ben, your birthday's on St. Patty's Day, right? You know, one of those. It was always like, all right. Be safe out there.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you get pulled over, what shouldn't you do, Michael?
Walk, talk, and spit.
Don't try and convince them, and don't try and think that things are going to go better if you just do it, cooperate and just spill your guts to them. Make them do their investigation. They stopped you. They want to, find if you're impaired or arrested. Make them do their investigation. Don't talk to them. Don't tell, I smoked one 3 hours ago. Don't tell them that shit. Because you're trying to minimize it, thinking that you're going to be better for yourself, and you're just giving them ammo. Stop it.
That's true. That happens quite a bit, Steve. It's interesting. You hear over and over again, people will give some specific number. I mean, I didn't smoke now, but I did maybe a little while ago.
Yeah.
As if that's going to help things along for you. So now you've just admitted to smoking it, so now they know they got you. Okay, so that's going to be in their report. Subject admitted to smoking marijuana 3 hours ago.
Don't you call that probable cause, Steve?
Yes, absolutely that's what it is.
It's also important that people realize that the use of the slang marijuana is it's advised that you eliminate that from your dialogue, not just because it's, as we discussed a few weeks ago, racist, but if you are going to talk about it, which no one's advising you should, by using this proper term, cannabis sativa L, it doesn't implicate you for committing a crime per se. I'm saying this partly sarcastically, but if you admit to marijuana use, marijuana is defined in a certain way within the law, but it's not really a thing. Marijuana is the cannabis sativa L plant, and it's got a certain amount of THC. That certain amount of THC, they never can figure out or ascertain, and certainly can't distinguish it from what would be other ingestions, whatever form, smoke or food or what have you, seeds from the cannabis sativa L plant that is less than 0.3% THC. They can't tell the difference. So sometimes the only evidence that they might have is you saying, yeah, I smoke marijuana, when in fact you're being racist and you're using slang terms and
you're incriminating yourself.
You're incriminating yourself on a term that they would never be able to establish from their own methods.
Yeah.
I mean,
right?
Right. And just, you have to identify yourself. Give them your identification. But you know what? It's not really their business where you've been, where you're going, what you're going to do. They're going to try and suck you in with pleasant conversation to ascertain more probable cause and to get you to make small admissions. Because if you admit to a few little things, then you're just being honest with them. That's going to help you out. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not. That's what it's going to wind up being.
It's hard to leave this conversation alone, and I know we kind of started out as we're doing the introductions, but I feel like as much as you're advocating for that, people have to be aware that the response, as well prepared as you can be to assert your rights and say, my lawyers told me not to talk, I don't answer questions, am I free to leave? Officer, I'm not going to assist in any test I don't have to take, I know my rights.
And I mean, if they try and engage you in the conversation, the simple conversation, it's some, officer, I really don't feel like having a conversation, respectfully so, I don't feel like having a conversation right now. I'd just like to get home, please.
But whatever you've prepared for, the officer likewise has prepared a response, probably better than what you've prepared, and they're going to respond to that, like you were last week or weeks ago. Oh, you think you're a lawyer now, huh? You think you're going to assert your rights? You think that's going to help you here? You think you're someone that's going to have...
But that's not even asserting a right. It's just saying, officer, I just would like to get home, and I'm not in the mood for any conversation right now.
Yeah, but
I'd please just like to get home. Then you're not really asserting any rights. You're just telling them how you feel at the moment.
Well, then you got to repeat it over and over and over again. And that may be one of the directions you can take it, and it's maybe less controversial, but at some point they're going to say, well, where are you coming from?
Because I think as soon as you say...
I can't let you go home unless you let me know where you're coming from.
As soon as you say lawyer, they become confrontational and will bully you.
All right.
At that point. That's my thought. But
or then you just take it as it is. You say, officer, I don't answer any questions.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
I don't take any tests. I don't answer any questions.
Yeah.
Am I free to leave? That's fine.
That's it.
That's all you got to do.
Would your lawyer tell you to say that?
There you go.
I don't answer questions.
No, I saw it on a YouTube.
Blame it on the lawyer. My lawyer.
That's what I say. I say blame it on the lawyer. Then now,
My lawyer will kill me if I don't do this.
Yeah.
right. Where'd you? The funny joke is, where'd you hear that? I watched it on a YouTube channel that shows you, the Moore's theory of right to travel and sovereign citizenship. I'm just kidding. That's not the place to learn.
Yeah.
The constitutional auditors
Yeah.
call
Right.
themselves. So there's sets of videos also that take place when there happens to be a police encounter.
Yes.
It happens and people know how to handle themselves well and they're prepared for it. Like those are pretty cool. I like watching those. I'm getting sick of kind of watching these ones where the people show up like at a post office or a store. In Michigan, they're going to cannabis stores a lot for some reason. And they get, they stand on a public sidewalk and they're totally allowed to photograph everything. And there's, all that kind of stuff. But then people get weirded out by it and they have a conversation with them. And these guys are like, fuck off. And they're laughing because they are going to prove how they're right. And
Constitution.
and then the police show up and they're like, get me your supervisor, it's gonna get to all that kind of stuff. It just gets to be too much. Like, yes, we should be like making sure that our rights are respected and protected and stuff. But it's just turned into like
just don't be an asshole.
stupid circusy asshole type thing.
Right.
You saying these are these constitutional auditors? And by the way, let's introduce Jamie
I
Lowe.
like the concept though of
I mean, I
making
like the
sure that our
Constitution.
rights
I
are
like it.
protected. Yeah, but this is a bizarre way of doing it. Yes, I am here.
All right, Jamie Lowe's introduced officially. Thanks for joining us, Jamie. Here live in the studio. Excited that you're here. But constitutional auditors. You're saying there was like on the sidewalk filming the whatever.
They not all the time, to be honest with you, because some of them are a little overconfident and they do actually do things that are, that call into question their behavior. But generally they set it up where they are not breaking the law. Really, they're on a public sidewalk. They're not obstructing anybody. They're filming what they can see in their view and all that kind of shit.
But they do. They go over the line. I know. I saw a video of a young man that was videotaping at a public library, and you've got families there with their kids, and I get it that it's their right, and technically, like I get all of that, but like, come on.
That's why I really like the ones when there's a natural confrontation with police and the people know how to handle themselves really well, and that is on video.
Yeah.
Those are a little bit stronger, in my opinion. They're really exercising rights civilly, calmly, directly, and and getting some action. And stuff like that in a situation where you really need it. And again, I've seen these audit things go down in a way where it's not that bad, and you did learn something or whatever. But so many of them are so sensational, and they've just overdone and outdo each other now to try to be a little bit more righteous in the next video, I guess.
But you're saying they're not targeting a place that needs to be audited, being outside of retail cannabis stores?
There's Michigan ones. There's Michigan guys. I forgot what they
Why are they doing it in
called
cannabis
themselves.
stores?
Well, they're getting a reaction. That's the point. They're standing on the sidewalk by the stores,
And they just take pictures.
and they're looking inside the store. They're looking at the people going in and out. And they're making them feel uncomfortable, and people are
Are
walking
they
up to them.
against cannabis provisioning centers?
It's hard to say. I mean, I guess I haven't gotten into it so deeply that I know where if there's some targeting of it because they just personally have some issue with cannabis or something. I'm not aware of that. I think that it might just be a place where they're getting a lot of response. So, they'll keep it up as long as they can cause a little frenzy. That's the point. Yeah. Which is,
Yeah, but
I
they
agree with
should leave
Jim. I understand you got your rights and stuff like that. But I mean, just to exercise it just to be a dick. Do
you think they would respect
exercising my dick right?
the right
Security?
the right for people to go into a store and choose their own medicine or recreational use substance?
Most of the
But
time,
these people don't. Maybe they're not
They may
libertarian.
be okay with that. I don't know, but I mean, I'm just saying. That
they do some
find it to
weird
be a good
shit,
place.
man. I watched one. They were videotaping a nursing home, like the outside of a nursing home.
there would be a difference, though, of some kind if it was a government building versus.
Well,
Private.
it could be, but I also
They go
think
into
that
the
if you're on
post
a
office?
public sidewalk, you're technically, legally, you're allowed to film. Like, you can't stop someone from doing that.
They've been established that they can film in a post office.
Yeah,
Yeah.
government grounds.
But even like standing, like I have a public sidewalk outside of my house. Someone could sit there and film my
As long as
home.
they're not obstructing people walking up and down the sidewalk,
Right.
and doing other stuff like that would cause some kind of.
Yeah.
You don't have a right to privacy there, anyways. Let's stop for a second and introduce our guest, one of our guests showing up here, Jaime, from the World of Podcasters, Meant to Vent podcast. Welcome, Jaime. Glad to have you here.
How you doing? Thanks for having me, everybody.
My pleasure. Who's your friend?
This is my son, actually, Jaime Jr.
Jaime Jr. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Does he actually watch your show?
Sometimes.
Okay.
I'm still not cool to the kid yet. Almost. Getting there.
A hard bridge to gap sometimes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Once you figure that one out, you can teach me.
Right. That's right. That's right. So, all right. So we don't have anyone on the Zoom. We've finished the introductions here. Some of the topics. There may be a rant, maybe not. There's the ongoing discussion of the rescheduling legislation that was just introduced. I think Jamie's going to give us an update on Bill 5522.
5512,
5512.
and the descheduled bill is 5877.
This study keeps getting put on the agenda here about frequent cannabis consumers exhibit short-term changes in psychomotor performance. I don't believe it. We'll look at that a little bit. There's another study that came out that contradicted.
Only frequent?
High Times Cannabis Cup has returned to Michigan and wants you to be a judge.
For a price.
We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Hash Bash, which is coming up, and some of the things to look forward to there, and a little cannajam, which is been locked in for October the 8th.
That's right.
The bands have been set.
Not completely.
Not completely.
Major
The major ones, yeah.
The headliner.
But lots to come. Boo. What are you saying, Tommy? Jeez.
Crowd wants all comedians.
Yeah.
All right, so the Schedule 1 issue.
That's funny.
The Schedule 1 issue. It's been introduced as legislation. The bill itself just removes marijuana. It's got to be marijuana because it's called marijuana. It's not called cannabis, but marijuana from the Schedule.
Marijuana.
Well, there
It'd
is
be Schedule 1 and Schedule 2.
Schedule 2. I think it's called like pharmaceutical grade cannabis or
Yep.
some
True.
made up term, and that is coming off too.
All right.
I mean, if the bill were to pass in this session, quite frankly, it has an uphill battle if it gets that far. But it's at least something tangible to point to that to start sowing the seed here. There's a really straightforward logical conflict with one resolution. It takes some people a little while to kind of get it, but once the seed is sown, I mean, it's impossible not to reach that conclusion.
You know,
It's pretty straightforward.
that's an interesting way to say it because the lawsuit that we filed on behalf of John Sinclair uses the term, which are legal terms, which are arbitrary and capricious or irrationally based, right? And that's kind of what you're saying. Like they got these two things going on, and when people begin to see it, then they'll see, well, that can't be. Or framed another way, if you understand what Schedule 1 means, which is that it is highly addictive and has no medical value, and then you learn that that same scheduled substance is sold not just medically, but and has been for 14 years, but it's also sold recreationally by the state, and tax dollars are gathered, and every month they have a newsletter that brags about how many sales they've had of the Schedule 1.
Walk around with it and trade it around with each other too. That's exactly how we that's how we have controlled substances in this.
Lacking in rationale would be an example of that, I would think, right?
Yeah, and I just want to. It's a good time to point this out too. The Komorn law firm, I guess, in conjunction with Cannabis Council, did file this awesome, perfect lawsuit, and this is just based on the medical laws, by the way. Isn't before you even add on all the other issues created by having it just being adult use at large, but sued the Board of Pharmacy in order to do this very thing, and using these same arguments. That is precisely what prompted me to go speak to Rep. Robbie in the legislature 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was now, and start this discussion to get to this point. And Josey Scoggin, who's coming on a little bit later on, was one of the plaintiffs in that lawsuit, as was the legendary John Sinclair and some other people.
That's right.
And so here's a legislative attempt, and in an interview with the Attorney General about a year and a half ago or so, she was saying that she was going to continue to fight your lawsuit. That was before it was on technical grounds, kind of stopped in the higher courts. But that she would support a legislative effort. So hopefully we will get that support.
The technical grounds are something to talk about. There's nothing to hide in the case because it's I don't know if it's published, but it certainly is not published in the legal sense that it becomes precedent, but it was an opinion was written. But the main issue that precluded us from proceeding was that the old adage of there wasn't standing. And, in this terms, legally speaking, standing means, that there's a party or an individual that we could point to that were one of the plaintiffs that was in harm's way, or there needed to be a ruling by the court in this regard to prevent those that were in harm or immediate harm or were going to be harmed. And oddly, the court's whole position was, it's medical and it's legal now by the time they got the case. And you've got the medical marijuana defenses and no one gets hurt and marijuana hasn't caused any problems. And the MMFLA and the passage of legalization have prevented any concern, so there's no direct harm to anyone. That would mean that in order for any of that to be true, like nobody else could have a marijuana case. No one could have been prosecuted. No forfeiture could have
Sounds like
taken
good
place.
arguments just to take it off. Then okay, well, since you feel that way about it, and it's,
Well, but the point is though that there were people being harmed. I had pending cases at the time. You would think that if it wasn't that no, like if the intent was to stop people from getting arrested, then there should be no people charged with the crimes. There's that part of it, but I think even more so is the other areas within our social fabric, part of the social contract that we have, that when individuals are engaging in Schedule 1 ingestion of controlled substances, or controlled substances Schedule 1, you don't want them working for you. You don't want them driving a car. You don't want them having control over kids and decision making over kids, right?
Yeah, but all that's starting to change.
Well, I think it's.
I mean, it is.
It is discretionary at this point.
It is.
Starting to change.
You're right.
Okay,
It helps
and it
get
shouldn't
off
be.
the list. Just,
And it shouldn't be discretionary.
I
the
agree.
classic example, as Jamie said, the Attorney General, in opinion, said she was opposing my lawsuit, but she'd support a bill. In that same interview, she said something to the effect of, I'm in favor of marijuana, and I'm in favor of being legal and not being punished. But there was this lawyer that interviewed in our office who's qualified in every level. Every level, we were going to hire him, give him a salary, get him started out in law enforcement, good deed doer, come work for the Attorney General's office,
Yep.
put away the bad guy, quote unquote. It's hard for me to say that. And turns out he couldn't get hired because he tested dirty when
That's
he dropped
fine.
when he dropped
now,
urine.
if that person was a medical marijuana patient, they couldn't not hire the person just
Correct.
for that reason.
Correct.
But, I mean,
But the reason why that urine sample that even mattered, forget the fact that we're looking at people's urines, but instead of judging them on their character and performance, but now that we are looking at their urine, it is because it is Schedule 1. There'd be no explanation in Michigan for any of the things that are associated with Section 8 housing, getting an apartment, getting, credit for those that haven't have their crimes expunged yet. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah, but it is changing, and as much as I don't like the fact that, and I remember the comments Dana made, and the fact that she isn't subject to the urine test because she's an elected official, and I think that's incredibly hypocritical, not of her, but just of the system itself, and the other kind of side of that coin, though, is that attorney probably went to work for a private firm and is probably making twice as much as they would have made working in the public sector. And what that ultimately equates to is that the public sector is going to lose out on great talent. And that's what corporate America is starting to figure out right now. And they're realizing that, especially in this economy, with the way the applicant pool is, which is it's not healthy, that you can't necessarily disqualify someone because of marijuana. And some companies are saying we're just not going to drug test employees at all.
I mean, there was some talk that some of the CIA and FBI needed, some
Department of Treasury.
But no, but even the
Well, the other agencies too. Yeah.
the other agencies were there was applicants that were qualified, but they were testing dirty or smoked marijuana.
Right, and the problem with the U.S. government is that in order to get information to those systems that everybody's plugged into, not necessarily the three-letter agencies, but certainly the Department of Defense, is you need a security clearance. And I got news for you: if you have used marijuana at all in the last 2 years, or hung around people that do, you are not getting a security clearance.
When I bring up the Department of Treasury, I think that was from a couple of years ago, and that whole story was about how they needed to hire people to stop hackers getting into their system, unless they allowed pot smokers. They weren't finding people good enough to to do the job.
Exactly.
And that's a thing that a lot of employers, I believe, are starting to learn. You give up so much in the talent pool to choose from if you want to make that a stipulation.
I mean, that's what I was going to say. Listen, the arguments that the court adopted to deny our action against the pharmacy board to unschedule, and the general counter arguments are, well, it's legal. It's legal. Why do we need to unschedule it? Or another way to say it is,
But is it really?
Well, I'm saying this rhetorically. You said that's kind of changing, and I said, well, it shouldn't be discretionary. The question is, are there really people in harm's way that are being affected by this?
Of course there are.
Okay. And
it's just less than it was.
And the reasons why they're being affected by it are because that individual's association with cannabis in some way is held against them and denying them some thing that they would otherwise be entitled to, right? And that could be the area of all the things we talked about, from a job. I mean, job, parenting, even though there's not supposed to be a direct correlation. That alone cannot be a basis to remove a child or bring an action of some kind.
How you're treated if you ultimately do end up in front of a judge accused of committing a crime.
That's true. Even employment. Not every sector is opened up to this.
No, it hasn't. It's just there's a significant shift that's occurred when one of the nation's very largest employers comes out and says, we're not going to test for marijuana except in positions that we absolutely have to because of the insurance or federal requirements. Like, that's enormous. And more of them are doing that. Or they're going in, and I know it's not ideal, but they're going in with this don't ask, don't tell type policy. And it's not what it was, even 10 years ago. And as the talent pool continues to, not deliver to the expectations of corporate America, those types of things will continue, because at the end of the day, there's no reliable data to indicate that marijuana use correlates with a lack of performance at your job.
So the question is, does it still serve as an obstacle or a outcome that would not happen but for the involvement with cannabis? I'll tell you an area or job set that probably should reconsider their policies. But we had this involvement with a case involving a police officer who was into athletics and in their training and whatnot, started to take CBD. And for whatever reason, got drug tested, and it comes back in your urine, which is a metabolite, as being from the cannabis sativa L plant, not necessarily marijuana, and they can't prove it otherwise. But they have obviously their own policies in terms of performance and whatnot, and those are what govern. They also have a union.
Yep.
But it was interesting because all of the reasonable and rational explanations for why it wasn't against their policy, they had written out, like no option. And as I just talked with the union lawyers that were representing this officer, it became very clear that the police were not ready, and it was never going to happen.
No.
That this would be acceptable. Whatever reasons were justified legally or whatnot, and there was going to be some, it may be lessened, but the word cannot get out that people can have, officers can have THC in their blood, and they can say it's from hemp. Now, I'm not, for someone that oftentimes is very hypercritical of police officers, I find this is an easy, low-hanging fruit to be critical of a problem, but you understand the point. Like, I don't, it's almost like, I don't know. It's based on the fallacy, like the football head, about critical of cannabis use or drug use because they're afraid that, performance is going to go down, and all the gambling and betting is going to be off. And the confidence in the gambling game that brings in so many dollars every.
I don't think it's that. I think it's a lot simpler than that. I mean, this is, and
could be historical.
Steve was here. Here's Steve. Steve's perspective is probably better than mine, but it's all these people have ever known. And you can't just tell somebody that has been out there busting people for weed for the last 3 or 4 decades that, hey,
It's done.
we're done.
They're just figuring out different ways to enforce it.
Well, no, Steve. So we were talking about the police situation without mentioning any specifics at all. Just like we're talking about, is there still a need to unschedule it? Are there still people that are being impacted by scheduling? Maybe in criminal laws still. It's certainly in jobs and parenting. We know, and employment and driving, of course, but. But this police situation that we encountered was interesting. I was trying to make the case that it was not cannabis, that was not marijuana use as they would describe it. It was something related to legal ingestion of hemp, right? And they couldn't delineate. The way they're testing it is not in any way evidence of anything, other than, there's some hemp being taken. They can't prove it otherwise. But we got, the inner readings from the union lawyers that we were working with that they ain't never going to prove this. They're never going to let the police get away with having THC when they're tested in the system, because if that happens and word gets out, the genie's out of the bottle and they're going to go crazy. And I think the idea is that in the concept of a military or an organized unit that's got to follow order and discipline and whatnot, the stereotypes still exist that those two things don't go hand in hand. In fact, I think Tim Beck used to talk about one of the reasons why there was such antagonism towards marijuana was that, the military-industrial complex principles that kind of drive much policy that we have, believe that if people are smoking marijuana, they'd not go to war. You know what I mean? You would not get people enlisting. You wouldn't get
There's
people.
probably some truth in that.
Right. Because you start thinking about things a little more deeply. I think cannabis has that effect on people. When you think about things more deeply, you realize that
Killing people and putting yourself in a position to get killed is
It's not
not
cool.
a good idea.
it's insane. I mean, and you look at things, and it's this situation with Russia we have right now. I was over in Russia. I took a hockey team over there about 7-8 years ago. I took a team of 10-year-olds to go play in the Vyacheslav Tretiak international hockey tournament. And, I had 5 Russian kids on my team. And we interacted with those families all week. And, at the end of the tournament, they came back. Those Russian families came back to our hotel, and the kids played knee hockey. And we had we ordered pizzas and salad and stuff for dinner.
The people are pretty cool.
What do you say? What do you say? You're pro Putin? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying
Putin is the
my point is that these people were just like you and I.
Of course.
They're just raising
and they don't-
families,
they don't like
raising
the idea
kids.
that
They don't
they're
even
at
know
war
what's
for
going
no
on.
good fucking reason either.
And,
They don't even know what's going on. They're not even
And it's
getting
like these insane leaders we have. I mean, to go to war, so they're invading a country right now, just killing people, killing civilians. The heads of these governments can make these decisions to go out and kill?
For
what?
No, I know. So here's
It's
the question.
insane.
The war has been around since the birth of humans, right? And I think it's fair to say that in and on the battlefield, there's been, it's notorious that there's been drug use, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Always,
A lot of people came back from Vietnam, I think, addicted to opiates.
well, I'm talking about, because maybe Vietnam was the military-industrial complex's view of what happens to a military if they're using cannabis. Maybe they want to fight less. I don't know if the performance of Vietnam was affected by marijuana or not marijuana, but yes, there's a lot of other drugs being used there. Maybe some drugs are good for war, right? They have your army or whatever, jacked up on
Meth?
Amphetamine.
amphetamines. I mean, it's always been that way, though, right? Hasn't it? You got to fly extra. They'll do that for the military. If they got to
Yeah.
fly extra, they give them some. There's
do
some
what they do.
government.
Whatever okay for them.
It's all legal.
But I'm saying to you, I'm trying to say a point about the marijuana in the police forces and marijuana in the military. And is it a real thing? Because people would. First question is, would they be disorganized and not follow orders
No.
and be too independent? 2, would they become lazy?
No.
Or could somebody be a rabid, regular, daily, multiple times a day user of cannabis and be good in the military? That's a question.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because if they're good before,
Some would be better.
it may hone in certain skills and things, and the way you think about doing things, and the way you analyze and break down things. I mean, if you have a lazy person that joins the military and they smoke marijuana or are allowed to smoke marijuana after, and they're still going to be a lazy person.
Yep.
If you have a highly motivated person joins the military and decides to start using cannabis for whatever reason, you're still going to have a highly motivated person doing the job.
Wouldn't a recruiter say, though, you're lazy in your life, you got nothing going for you, smoke weed every day, come join the Army. We'll break you from that bad habit and we'll get you.
That was probably a line they used, yeah.
I mean, is that what they're counting on to attract people to join the Army? Is we're going to break you your weed habit? That's the major selling point.
I'm saying to you that the association and not saying it's a correlate, connected or there's a cause, but the association of pinning the person in whatever miserable life with that kind of activity and that, breaking from it. I'm saying this. There's a stereotype that still exists, obviously.
Yeah.
And that is what is keeping the use in the police, right? It's got to be one of the factors. The stereotypes that are still associated with cannabis use, right?
But it's okay if the drug teams finish their surveillance at 11 and they close down the bar every night.
It'll be
2:30.
fine. Yeah.
That's fine.
And use their dogs that still detect marijuana.
And then they drive home all fucked up.
Yeah.
That does occur. That will occur tonight. In fact, they'll probably cut surveillance early and hit the bars because it's St. Patty's Day.
Oh.
I guarantee what I'm speaking, there's some semblance of that occurring right now amongst the drug teams here in the state of Michigan. Guarantee it.
I don't think you're wrong, Steve. I don't think you're wrong.
But we don't want them using cannabis, though.
Nope.
Go get fucked up on all the alcohol you want and drive wherever you want, but do not use cannabis.
Yeah. And on that note,
wait,
we got to take a break.
It's fine, but I wanted to say this. Maybe instead of the mantra being defund the police, which has got nowhere, and I don't even know what it means, and it's not the answer, it'd be to smoke down with the police.
Smoke down the police.
Right? I mean,
hotbox the police.
Hotbox the police. I don't know.
If there's officers that would find benefit in using it medicinally, why shouldn't they allow it? You allow your officers to use opioids?
You know what? The judgment may not be there for some, right? The judgment may be. It's different for everybody.
I mean, maybe.
Some people's judgment's better.
But we got to take a break.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
You're listening to Planet Green Trees.
All right.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
When you're charged with a crime, you need a real attorney. And here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective. Take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. One that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine. Attorney Michael Komorn. Knockout victories one case at a time. Komorn Law. Google it. komornlaw.com.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
important and historical farm crop in American agriculture has returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
Charged with a crime, you need a real attorney. And here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective: take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. One that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine. Attorney Michael Komorn. Knockout victories one case at a time. Komorn Law. Google it. komornlaw.com.
Bill Schuette led the charge against medical marijuana, and even after the will of the voters was decided and the support was enormous, he still continued to fight against the will of the voters, keeping patients from the medicine that they need. So I think it's important that we all speak up on what we think about this initiative. But when the voters have their say, their will must stand.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Trees, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things cannabis and legal news.
Here's Michael Komorn with more Planet Green Trees.
Mechanism or something.
Yeah.
We're back.
We're back. You listen to Planet Green Trees, episode 553, No Blank Spaces. I'm your host, Michael Komorn, and we are ready to move on to the next topic, which shall be what?
Um,
Jamie's going to update us on the 55.
Yes.
Josie's coming in like 20 minutes or so.
Talk about her?
Her, yeah, when she comes on.
When she comes on. At
Okay.
9.
Got some
Who?
Jaime.
Yeah.
Right.
I got a little. I brought a little stoner of the week topic.
Okay.
And being that you guys are fellows of the law, I figured you guys can take your angle on it. And this story may or may not be true.
Okay.
Just for a heads up.
Okay. All right.
For legal purposes, it may or may not be true. No. But a man from Minnesota, it's very specific, so maybe it is true. But a man from Minnesota claimed that he was abducted, and he shares the same DNA as a child that was abducted maybe 3 weeks ago, and the child was 8 years old. And he looks like a very strung-out meth addict in his 60s or 50s, but he's probably 20. And he claims that he was abducted by aliens, and they took him to a planet where they age very rapidly.
Yeah, it was that, not the meth.
Disclaimer may or may not be true.
Yeah, so this planet apparently, like, the oxygen is like 40% meth because it just ages you like fucking quick as hell. So my thoughts on you, like, if somebody gets actually busted on trying to pull something off like that, what could they be looking at? You know, somebody trying to pull some hoax off of, you know, trying to maybe benefit off a family or something like that.
Fraud, could be criminal, could be probably criminal, harassing if they're trying to work their way in. You know, I could see something like that happening. But let's talk about what's that movie that kind of. There's a movie that was what's it called? Come on,
what movie?
It's
this one movie, you know.
I'm gonna.
It's got those people in it.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's like when you're going down that one road, you turn left.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it's called. I'll tell you who's in it. It's got.
What's it about?
It's about going to another planet.
All right. Journey.
No.
Nope.
It's
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
There's it's all. I mean, it's got the whole time factor that kind of makes it weird. It's no. It's the guy that's in. Okay, I can't think what it. It's he was in Lincoln Lawyer. Who's that actor?
Lincoln Lawyer.
The lawyer in Lincoln Lawyer. That's the one movie that I can read. All right, how about he's in Tropic Thunder? He's like the guy that has the scene with.
Tropic. I think I saw that like.
Okay, I'm just trying to. What's
15 years ago.
I'm lost on that one.
All right,
listen. The movie goes like this: the planet is running out of, like fucking, like some ice, environmental issue. They need to find another planet to go to, so they take off to go explore other planets.
Interstellar.
There you go. Okay,
gotcha.
And in that, in that,
all right, now we can move.
They leave from the ship to go down to the planet, right? And they come back, and the orbit of the planet is different in the days and years, whatever. So they're down there like for what they think is like 8 hours. And they come back, and the guy that's in the ship is like aged 40 years or something.
Right.
Mm-hmm. All right. So it's obviously true, and it wasn't hard to figure all that out.
You're saying okay.
After we got the movie, it all came together.
So it wasn't the meth.
Right. It wasn't.
He
the
actually
meth.
just went.
It was the space.
I see. Okay.
Time continuum.
Good.
If you actually go into space and come back to Earth, you don't age as much as the people back on Earth. Ass backwards.
I heard something cool about the people that have been in space and stayed in space for a period of time. Like they lose their like bone strength and muscle strength.
Yes.
There's a little atrophy
because there's no gravity that they're fighting.
Right.
It's becoming just a gel, just a blob.
It's kind of cool.
Nothing support.
You think cannabis will make you lazy?
Right.
That's what I
Space
fear
is
now.
worse.
Like I fear like the new technology now is like that Wall-E technology when it comes to films. Like it's making us do less and less, and like the technology is doing more and more for us. It's moving us closer to being blobs. I think
it is.
Button pushing blobs.
It is.
All right, more? Is there more event?
Oh, sure, why not? No, but like I said before, like the time travel thing. You know, if the guy was telling the truth and what happened, you know, is facing fraud, things like that. But I think that if the judge was, you know, a good judge, or maybe he caught him on a good day, maybe he'd be a little humorous with it and have fun with it. Maybe not go so hard on the guy. Plus, if he looked like he was on meth, maybe you just feel for him and send him to a hospital.
That's a normal response from a judge. Sensitive
He's sensitive and nice.
Very kind.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Calming.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think they would look at it as an opportunity to
set an example.
Set an example.
And exercise their authority to make this person better.
That's right.
But you never know. This place is, you know, nowadays it's getting so sensitive and super inclusive of everything. The guy might have a shot.
Well,
the guy might have a
It
shot.
just depends what district he gets arrested.
I would say that
Precursor to temporary insanity.
I would say that the courts are completely immune from that idea. They don't care. Don't bring that shit in here.
Right.
That stuff. All that.
We ain't woke in here.
Yeah. We're not,
right.
nobody passed any laws saying we have to be woke.
Right.
We're going to make this as unuser friendly as we possibly can. I mean, I actually, I had a kind of, it was not serious. I don't even know how it was get involved. It's, like a driver's license suspended thing recently.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of years since I've, like a stupid, silly misdemeanor that can only be cured by getting your license back, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's some issues to fight about, which we found a couple. But
it's one of those crimes that targets the poor.
it targets the poor. What's interesting, though, and this is my whole point, is I was sitting with the prosecutor trying to talk some sense into him. I said, we're in a new era right now. There's all this legislative reform for trying to fix the criminal justice system. There's two scathing reports that concluded, one, the system is broken, and there's too many people locked up in jail for the wrong reasons. And it's not me just saying this. You got all this legislation. You got the expungement laws. Mm-hmm. This crime, in fact, the driver's license suspended by statute, precludes the officer from arresting you. Mm-hmm. You're driving without a license. It's restricted, revoked, suspended, whatever it may be. They would lock you up in 10 seconds.
Not anymore.
Search your car, impound your car, take your kid to the
That happened to me.
Yep. They can't do that anymore.
That happened to me a long time ago.
Yeah.
I had a suspended license, and I got pulled over. Had my son in the car. All that stuff happened.
So what I'm saying is, and you get locked up, and you got to post bond, and you don't have any fucking bond, and you lose your job. I mean, it's all the reasons that they need to amend it. So
and then you end up in this vicious cycle, and you can never get out of it.
Right.
Because after you get out, it's not like, they're like, now that you've gone to jail, we're going to give you your license back.
Right.
No, they tell you, guess what, motherfucker?
Yeah.
We're starting over, and we're going to tack a little extra time on there to make you think about it next.
Yeah.
correct.
They spin you into a downward spiral.
And some traffic classes.
Yeah. So you can learn not to
like
drive
that.
on a suspended license.
There's different reasons
was
why
not fun.
there's different reasons why people may lose their license. Or have it revoked, suspended. There's some are arguably worse than others. Like if you unpaid tickets or financial woes is less arguably than someone who's got multiple.
Someone can have
alcohol related.
Someone can have their license suspended because they fail to pay a parking.
Of course.
ticket.
Yep.
And
I
when
just told somebody that.
And I'm not. But I'm saying so. But those are oftentimes the situation.
Yeah.
But they're in the same category as someone that may have had 4 drunk drivings X amount of years ago. But I'm saying it's just there's no discerning of those two categories. Anyways, the point was that the new law regarding driver license suspended does not allow you to arrest. You have to ticket and let them go. So think about that for a second. They're so dangerous that they're driving that we used to lock people up, but now the law precludes us from doing that, and we have to give them a ticket and let them leave.
They could still tow your car.
Oh,
make
and
you
they
walk.
will.
They'll do it.
But they don't. They ticket and let them go.
They don't let them drive.
Yes, they do.
They let them drive away from.
Yes.
Interesting.
That's insane.
Yes. And then
Why even suspend the license?
the license is suspended when they're driving is the theory. They said, do you have a driver's license? Here it is. They go back and check it.
It's only suspended when you're actually behind the wheel of the car. Other than that, it's not suspended. That's crazy. That's insane talk right there.
Well, first of all, it's better for the defendant because it precludes the arrest. That's what they tried to stop.
They don't take the license. You still use it as an ID, but you can't use it to drive.
He may not have one. They give him his name. He's got some ID on him. They go and they check and they see your license is suspended for the last 12 years. What the fuck's going on
and
here?
it's more like they go up to the car, hand them their ticket, and say, "Okay, I gave you this ticket for driving with a suspended license. Don't drive. I'm gonna leave now, and just make sure you get a ride."
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
They don't say, "Go ahead and drive," because if they see him drive again, they'll give you another suspended ticket, theoretically. So.
Or once you get that one that day, you can start a cab service, right? You're good for your one for that day.
Yeah, I got mine.
That doesn't always work.
And then, I mean, the worst.
It would never work. It would never work. It would catch
This
up
was
bad.
a very common arrest in Canton. And, I mean, it was
Because it's an easy one. Because you know their license is suspended before you even walk up to the car.
And you know what? That arrest for that DWLS gives you a search of the car because it's search incident to arrest, and you can search that car now. Guess what you're gonna find sometimes, Jamie?
A couple of roaches.
Little marijuana.
A little bit.
Hell, sometimes you scrape enough shake off that floor, you might get you a gram to charge them with.
In the mat.
And we would lock people up on a Friday night for DWLS. And if they couldn't get bond money over the weekend, they're there till Monday morning for Monday morning arraignments with 20 other people who got locked up for driving while suspended over the weekend. But yet, if you got arrested on a felony or domestic violence on a Friday night, you're getting arraigned Saturday.
Oh, my God.
They got the out-county magistrates right there.
So you have
Still kind of not worth it later on in the process, though.
This almost raises the significance of we need more sovereign citizen laws. Just kidding. I mean, the right to travel. No. This is the way I want to say it.
We're going to go here.
This license game.
Yeah.
We're talking about the license game. The privilege. You want to drive? Come get your license from the government, right? And from there, getting that thing and what it does if you don't have it, and what kind of shit comes over you by getting it, losing it, trying to get it back. I mean, like lives have been ruined in the license game.
You want to know my solution and full reform on this? It should be a $50 ticket. If you're not driving, if you don't have a license and you get caught not driving, it's a $50 ticket. There's also, if you don't have a license, you can't get insurance, so that's a drawback to not having. There's enough drawbacks to not having a license that most people are going to get their license. If you don't have a license, it should be a $50 ticket. Be on your way and be done. I mean, that's where these tickets need to go. These insane traffic ticket fees, $185 for a speeding ticket or a parking ticket. It's what in the hell? I mean, the price is
like $140 for 5 over in Livingston County or something like that.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, these tickets should be like $25 and $50, and parking tickets should be no more than $10. I mean, if you did it that way, there's not going to be the need for this mammoth court with dozens of people having to work and run it.
And a nice steady stream of extra income coming in.
Yeah.
We should do away with
take the hit. All right.
We should do away with the impeding traffic ticket as well.
That's my favorite.
I don't know.
The impeding is my favorite.
The impeding's like useful.
That's the lifeline.
Man.
That's for going to. That's your plea when you go to court. You go up to that officer or the magistrate and you know what? Can I take a plea to impeding on this? And most of the times they'll say okay, and then you pay your fine on that.
The ticket for speeding
points.
was only $140. The ticket for impeding's $180. They get their $40. Everybody's happy.
But then you don't have your insurance ramifications because it's no points.
No.
Is impeding like a? Is it? Just
It's not.
infraction?
It's not a moving
Civil
violation.
infraction. Yeah.
It's just not a moving violation.
It's like
so it
double
doesn't go to
parking.
your-
It's not a misdemeanor. Or anything.
No, it's like double parking, and it's one that they can charge money for. And when you're stuck with civil infractions with points or insurance liability, it's a good one to land off. And no one usually gets. Very few people get charged with impeding traffic. I will say, our friend Bernard Jockins had a case that he's appealing on the issue of blockading traffic, because one of the things about blockading traffic, it's not that you're in a place that would block traffic. You actually have to be blockading traffic. You know what I mean? So the origin of the stop was that the guy had stopped in front of his house for a minute. The cop may have seen him from wherever he was. There's no cars that were impeded. Pulled into his driveway, and then he went in after him, said, "You're just blockading traffic because you stopped in front of your house for a minute." And then that led to the, whatever shit came out.
A suspended license.
Whatever, right? Something like that. But let's talk about the license game. The license game has been such a brutal stick to be able to destroy people's lives, not just the arrests, the tying them into the court, the reason to pull people over, but it's been something that has always been a huge enforcement by the police. And it is kind of remarkable that we've gotten to this point in time now where they're not arresting people for it anymore, But you understand how challenged people are and how difficult for some reason it becomes for them to be able to even renew their licenses, renew their tabs, right?
Yeah.
Have their insurance on them when they need it. I mean, these are the things that the state requires of you.
Yeah.
All loopholes to get you arrested, right, from the government standpoint.
Right.
It has got a little easier over time. Right? There's more.
They got rid of the driver responsibility fee.
But this is my point. Like, that was one of the games that they played at the beginning. The state needs some money. We're going to create some laws that are going to.
You were you couldn't afford insurance and you got a ticket for it. Well, we're going to tack on this extra fee because that's going to help make you be able to afford insurance.
The invention of that program set back. I mean, how many people?
It was horrible. It was another one of these cycles. And if you didn't pay it, you didn't have a license. Guess what that meant, Steve? When you got pulled over,
you're getting
money.
locked up.
Yeah.
But what they did for a while was it took maybe 2 to 3 years when they had the driver responsibility fees before they would allow you to get onto a payment plan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you could actually get into good standing.
And some of those fees were like $500.
It was irrational. They were just making stuff up. It was a way to raise money. All right. And this is the whole point of why the courts...
To fund these mammoth courts. And all their staff. I mean, I used to walk into the Plymouth court. You know how much staff they had in that court?
I know.
There was a lot of staff in that court. A lot of staff. I mean, and do you think there's really a lot of violent crime going on in Plymouth, Canton, Northville section of Wayne County? There's not a lot of serious
You got some
crime
DV,
going
they had
on.
a couple of drunk drive-ins,
Yeah.
and some...
Little of this, a little of that.
I mean, the majority of my arrests were, number one, DWLS, followed by probably drunk driving and marijuana, followed by domestic violence and retail fraud. We had about 1 homicide a year there. You know, I don't know the number on sexual assaults, but I don't know. Serious ones, like actual, like rape, serious, you know, was not a lot. And as a detective, I had my share of child abuse, sexual abuse cases. But that was it. I mean, it's not like we're going run to run violent crime.
Right.
You know, it was the game in that section of town was you hammered down on the civil infractions and the low-level misdemeanors. Keep people in line that way, Jim.
That's right. Crack the whip.
You know how many people got pulled over driving from Pontiac to Detroit, going down Telegraph out there in front of 40th District Court, and then getting locked up for the weekend and ended up in front of Judge Kimberly Small or Judge...
Any one of them in that court is just,
name,
it's going to be a
Right
bad...
by Andover on Telegraph.
It's going to be a bad day for you.
Right.
I mean, but that's a lot of these judges and a lot of these courts. They're wacko. They're like, there are the kings of our time, kings and queens of our time, sitting up on their perches, laying judgment upon people, giving us their opinions on how they think we ought to live. I'll tell you about the way some judges live and their families, because I've been to some of their homes. And they go through the same problems like everybody else. And you know what? Their homes might even be a little bit out of control because Dad's been so busy campaigning and politicking that he hasn't had time to parent. So now the kids...
Now you get to judge them.
Now the kids... now the kids being defiant and, you know... In that same week, you'll hear that judge lecturing people about the way they're living. You know, so it's bullshit. The kings and queens of our time need to come crumbling down.
Want their cake.
Especially in these district courts, it's bad. And circuit court's not much better.
You know, watching a bunch of district court cases it's like just watching this huge cash register, man. That's all.
Yeah, it isn't.
No, it is.
That's all it's about.
Cha-ching.
How much you got on you? 40 minutes. All right, we'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take it.
We'll take it and we'll set you up on a payment plan.
Back.
I've been alerted by Jim Powers that Josey Scoggins is in the queue, and we want to get her right on here. She's our highlighted...
Josey Scoggin.
What is it?
Close. Josey Scoggin.
Well, why don't you then...
What did he say?
Why don't you then speak for me, Jamie?
Oh, he put an S. It's not Scoggins. It's Scoggin. It's singular, right, Joes?
I got a little thing with my S's. What do you
We
want?
can't hear you, Josey.
You got your mute on, Josey.
I only said that because it's
Thank you guys for having me here. I'm so excited. I just want to dive right into expungement talk and all the bullshit we're doing over at Glenn. It's also been a really long time since I've been over here at Planet Green Trees, so I'm so excited to be here with you guys. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Planet, you're on Planet Green Trees,
right?
Yeah.
Sons and Daughters United, Great Lakes Expungement Network.
So we are so excited. We launched the Great Lakes Expungement Network in May, May 25th, so we're coming in on our 10-month anniversary. We've experienced a lot of really great learning planes, I suppose, since the launch in May. We've submitted over 380 applications for expungement, done nearly 900 or a little over 900 eligibility screenings. We offer one of the only fee-free full-service expungement programs for cannabis offenders here in Michigan, and we service all 83 counties. Something that's particularly interesting about doing expungement of this magnitude, or at least expungement in multiple areas, is the difficulty when it comes to some of these smaller courts. And more so, what we're waiting for, what used to be, can attest to this, maybe a 3-month wait from start to finish is really an 8 months scenario. So we filed 130 applications in July. We received our first round of court dates, of actual, real, usable court dates, with the AG response this February. So
I was going to ask if that was the AG's office.
We talked about this. We texted about this a little bit, Josey, and I want to explain a little bit more. But I want to ask is, if you guys do only and exclusively expungements for cannabis convictions? Is that right?
No.
Okay.
So that's a great point. So cannabis offenders, meaning they have at least one cannabis conviction on the record, because we do fund it through cannabis companies. But the truth is that, believe it or not, the prison, the courts aren't really made for rehabilitation, right? So people that may have started with a cannabis conviction end up with a lot of, and I think what you guys were talking about were like petty crimes or poverty crimes or crimes that don't really have much of an victims, or don't burden anybody other than the perpetrator, right? So like this idea that we have here in the state of Michigan, that you do your crime and you do your time and you move on from that, it couldn't be further than the truth for so many people, right? And for so long, our expungement program, our expungement, the path to expungement was so narrow that it was embarrassing, that 95% of Michiganders never went through with expungement, even though they were qualified, and that's within 5 years. Now, some people would argue that it's because they didn't know that expungement was a possibility, but the truth is because the system isn't built for them to get expungements, right? So after a client comes to me and we determine if that they are eligible for expungement, they don't believe it. They'll go to the court, the judge will expunge that record, and they'll just stand there in complete disbelief for a minute and 2 minutes. We are still an extension of the system, right? And there's not a lot of good examples of the system working, but I think expungement is one of them.
I was going to say, I want to just touch on a couple of things that you said. I want to return to the issue of the delay, but the principles of expungement, which are the ability to have a conviction on your record set aside or removed so it doesn't constitute a conviction anymore. It's a relief in equity. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means it's no longer on your record. And it sometimes has some impact for immigration cases. But for all other purposes, the removal of a conviction from one's record can erase it. Now, I just want to point this out, Josey, because, I've been practicing law 30 years. So, when I started practicing, there was some expungement law. And it was like that, whatever it was like, I think it was one misdemeanor, maybe start with like 1 or 2 misdemeanors at most. And that would mean like that included everything. Like if you had a driving while license suspended, that counted as a misdemeanor, right? Yeah, that kind of stuff. Right. So then at some point I think it started as 1, but I'm saying over the years there was like maybe 3 times it was amended. It went from like 1 misdemeanor to maybe 2 misdemeanors, or 1 misdemeanor, 1 felony, and then it went from 1 felony to 2 misdemeanors. But it was not a lot, not progressive, and it's still a lot of people. It never was it 2 felonies, because at the same time that these relief might be available to people under the existing laws, most prosecutors would work plea agreements out, especially here in Oakland County. They would, they wanted you to get 2 felonies because the law was that if you had 2 felonies, you couldn't get either expunged and be a felon for the rest of your life. Plead guilty as charged, take your 2 felonies, and we'll recommend probation, and people feel like they're getting something. But there was an idea there that they're going to forever label them as felons for thereafter. And the reason why all this has happened is because Michigan kind of has taken the lead in a very proactive, progressive reform movement, one might say. We were talking about this a little bit before, about how it was driven by 2 commission's reports, that one was the jail overcrowding problem that the governor had a commission reported, and then one was the trial court funding program where they concluded that the system is broken. And all of those things attached to it were too many people getting dragged into the system, not enough warnings, too much time on probation, and nothing good other than the reaping of funds to support themselves as a bias in the entire thing. But the sweeping legislation that's taken place and supported throughout are the principles that we want people to have an opportunity to get back into the workforce. We don't want people to have to remain outside the lines of, society and civility. They should have an opportunity to get licenses. They should have an opportunity to get, driver's licenses, occupational licenses, and free themselves of the felony convictions that hold them down. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that a misdemeanor conviction can prevent you from coaching someone in at school.
Can prevent you from getting a job.
I'm just saying, just that simple relationship. You want to chaperone your kids, take them somewhere. You got a misdemeanor. That may be a basis to not.
Yeah.
So I mean,
prevent you from entering Canada.
Yes. Yes. It's long. It's a long list, but. The legislation, and for many of the marijuana cases, our experience has been that once the application is filed, the courts automatically sign off on it. You just got to kind of initiate it. And then these are the specific marijuana cases that after a few years, I think it's maybe 3 years, they'll be automatically removed. That is the progression of the...
Coming up next year.
Right. So...
Not every... Right? So that's what I'm seeing so much when I'm looking through people's stuff is I want to know, is this worth going through, right? Because each layer, each expungement application takes about 8 months at this point. So I want to know, is this worth doing? Is it going to expunge? So the rules for automatic expungement is 2 felonies, no assaultive crimes, no weapons, right? Or 2 misdemeanors. Now, or maybe it's 3 misdemeanors, or any combination of that. But the issue that we're seeing is that so many people don't qualify for automatic expungement. And more so, what we saw back in April of last year was there was the statute which had been promoted, which we had learned about and watched and really been excited about. And then there was the forms, which were not really in the judge's interpretation of the statute, which were not necessarily in the spirit of what a lot of our partners were thinking, right? So we partnered with 8 different law firms across the state. We really wanted to gear up for this. We wanted to get ready. So we started in 2 counties and expanded from there. By the time we launched May of last year, we saw over 300 applications in the first 3 days. That was Memorial Day weekend. There is no shortage of poor and unjust policy here in the state of Michigan, and there is no shortage of victims of that policy, right? So remember that 1 million people here, 1.3 million people here in the state of Michigan are eligible for expungement of some sort, and only 250,000 of those are misdemeanor cannabis charges, right?
Hold on, I didn't get it. I want to say we agree on this very important point, which is that one of the challenges for the process, and it's easy to blame and point the finger where blame should be, and it is that the delay of the 8 months is caused because you could file a petition, and once you get what's needed, you could file the petition for the setting aside of the conviction within a couple of days, once it happens, or 1 day, whatever. Once the court receives it, it won't schedule a court date until it receives from the Attorney General's office a letter saying that the applicant is eligible to have an expungement. So it was reminiscent of the old days of the medical marijuana cards when it sometimes took 8 months or 9 months to get your
Walking around with a
card sent out to you, and you got a piece of paper.
cash check and an
but the idea is that it's hard for a government to get behind this and champion this really remarkable point in Michigan's history for criminal justice reform, and then have even that office, that administration back it, even go to some events and affairs and support it and whatnot, and not have the wherewithal to put the proper amount of resources into the necessary activity to respond to the letters. How about automating them? How about having a portal of some kind where you don't have to go through regular mail or something that, where you can just upload?
Why does it have to be the Attorney General? I mean, these courts are...
That's the expungement statute. That's the expungement statute calls on that.
I just don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. It seems to me the court would run the person's background.
The Attorney General, the idea, I think, policy-wise, is you've got... the parties that have to be notified are the prosecuting of the case and the Attorney General. The Attorney General's office has been tasked with the duty of doing the lien check and seeing if there's any outside of that jurisdiction. Arguably, that prosecutor would not be, I don't know. I mean, they probably let them off
access to lien.
So
the statute was written at a different time, probably.
The fingerprint check, right? So what you do is you send it. All that the AG's job is to say this is eligible according to the statute, and here's why. But those letters are so fucking vague that it's a goddamn embarrassment for us to wait 8 months for something that doesn't really say anything. It says something like, let's use somebody who has operating on a suspended license, right? It will list the categories or the circumstances that would make operating on suspended license illegal, which would be if they had a commercial driver's license or if somebody was hurt during the traffic events, right? As long as those two things don't come out, then the judge should grant it or it's assumed to be eligible. But they don't use words like Jim Powers is eligible for expungement. It is vague and it's embarrassing. And it's not what I'm seeing on the west side of the state, right? So it's incredibly, I know Oakland County is not new to shitty prosecutors. I get that. That's nothing new for you guys. But we on the west side and Berrien County are very new to decent and reasonable judges, and more so what I consider to be redemption sentencing, which is, hey, we see that you've invested in yourself and we understand in second chances. I think most Michiganders are rooting for the underdog. That's why y'all got your Lions t-shirt in the back. This has always been Michigan policy, and I think that Michigan is at the forefront of policy reform in so many ways that we really truly forget that it's terrifying here and that all of our drug sentences are 20 years. And that because they are this long, even though people aren't being sentenced like that, it prevents them from expunging these things if they're dealing with addiction or something like that. And I think the policies are created like that, right, to keep people what lawmakers consider to be accountable. Remember that redemption is a new idea and that people have believed that sticking somebody with a criminal record keeps them accountable to their previous actions. Right, that's the moral of it.
Most of the, there's always been a piece in the expungement law that, in addition to being eligible based on the statute as it's been written and changed several times over the last 30 years, that, there's the first qualification of being eligible. And the letters that, I don't think we've done expungement for DWLS, which is, but if of the ones that we've done them for, I don't know that there's been, like 99% of each letter is the exact same. And I agree, it's vague and broad. But what they're saying is, it appears as if, based on the information we have, that they're eligible, and at the hearing that the court has, upon the applicant's verification that it's in the public's welfare. That's the term of art that they use. So a lot of times they'll, I've only had one or two judges really do this, and one was in Oakland County, one was in Wayne County, but never in this last go-around. But it's something to the effect of, counsel, why is it in the public's welfare to grant the relief you want? You know? And, but I will say this. The statute also says if the AG letter says they're eligible and upon taking testimony that shows that it's in the public welfare, in the best interest of the public welfare, if the county prosecutor does not object in that moment. Like I got to ask the counsel, do you tell me why we should grant this, you know, what's in the best interest of the public welfare? I said, well, Judge, the state hasn't been asked if they object yet. Okay, state, do you object? You're the county prosecutor. Do you object? No, we don't. And then I said, I don't have to give you a reason anymore. Public welfare doesn't matter if the county and the statute allows for that, and it can be granted under those circumstances. My point was, and I think this is what you were saying, Josey, most of the county prosecutors that we've encountered on this side are not opposing the relief or the petition. Are you finding that to be the same?
Right. Yeah, and I don't see, this is a big debate, right? So because it's not directly in the statute, before there was like a huge burden of proof, like Michael's talking about. You had to like, you had to not only invest yourself in education and be a tax-paying member of society, but you also had to be extraordinary in some way. You had to like read to orphans or start a nonprofit, become a preacher. You could do everything right, but if you weren't worth investing in the court's eyes, and you really had to uphill battle, and lots of people had to come in and say you were a good dude. But now that they've taken that burden out, we also falsely believe that meant that the burden of proof was different, right? And so the overall approval is still on the judge. And so that's the true difficulty in running a program in this magnitude is the judges that were able to submit so many applications at the same time were able to open up some really great communications with the prosecutor's office and with the clerk, and that's great. But in these small town, multi-county courts, it's incredibly difficult to just get in and file. Right? And also, it's not only like that. It's like, I don't know how people are filing in Wayne County. It's incredibly difficult. They have a whole completely different process than what anybody else does. They want you to fill out an application, submit a check for the application, along with a check for the criminal records pull as well, which is completely bogus, and that's the only place that does that. I also, in the beginning, I had a real argument with 52-2, which is Oakland County, which is like probably is just about as big as Komorn's office. But they were refusing a variety of misdemeanor marijuana charges because they didn't have fingerprints, but that's not a requirement, right? And usually it's something as simple as sending back the instructions and highlighting where they're wrong. But these are places that are heavily populated areas. Oakland, Macomb, Wayne County account for 42% of Michiganders, right? So that is absolutely outrageous. The inaccessibility and the inability to just access the courts from the beginning, right? So here's a fun thing to do, right? I dare everybody to go and try to pull a record from the Frank Murphy Hall of Justice. It's incredibly difficult. Remember, expungements are just an extension of the system. So when people start to see it not working, they don't just put more faith in it, right? Historically, that has never been in their best interest. So I'm interested in seeing how they proceed throughout the summer, because remember last year they allocated $40 million to expungements, and instead of hiring like more than 3 staff members, they just ran around the state and then did these DIY fairs, and then everybody that submitted their applications never got their paperwork back. And let's be realistic about the fact that experiencing long-term incarceration causes serious and persistent issues for up to a decade after leaving prison, right? So we're talking studies that show over 60% of people who experience long-term incarceration are dealing with debilitating and chronic sprouts of depression for a whole decade. So these are people that don't have the ability to just continue to put themselves out there. And I think that's a disservice that our state's doing.
You know, another thing that I was thinking about while you were talking about some of the downside of and challenges is that in principle and you're really playing like the liaison to try to facilitate this major problem, which is the courts are generally not user friendly. I mean,
true.
And I don't mean to talk negatively about my profession, but try to go it alone. There's an old saying, he who represents himself as a fool for a lawyer, and it's for various reasons, one of which is that unless you're accustomed to the way these enable to adapt within some framework of even where to go, where to stand, who to talk to, not pissing people off. I mean, it's generally speaking not user friendly, and there are certain buttons you learn that you got to push in order to, as a lawyer, but it comes from. I mean, it's not a lot of it's something that can clearly be learned, but even beyond that, various problems come up that require some investigating. Convictions aren't always entered properly. Weird things happen. Court files don't have what's necessary. One court tells you got to do something. The other court didn't tell you could do something. They're telling you something that you swear is right, and and you're just not getting the answer. And they're not taking your calls because they don't want to hear. These are the kind of things that can blow up. And what I'm saying is the things that you're talking about. And you, of course, are pointing out the problems that you, as someone that's devoting all your time, like a lawyer, or having services that are lawyers that are doing this, still having problems. So let's back up from that a second. This legislation, this new opportunity, shouldn't really require a lawyer, right? It should be user friendly.
Yeah,
And what it points out more than anything is even when the legislature throws you, like a slow pitch. Underhand, hit this if you can. The legislature comes out with it. Everyone else is getting in the way, so you can't get it. You know what I mean? There's all these other problems that are going to impact your ability to get to it, such as the system's broken, it's not user-friendly, and they're not really looking to help people. They're looking to hurt people. And secondly, of the one thing that should be a slam dunk, some automated system of getting this stupid letter out. Instead, the people are delayed and months after months waiting, and they don't know. They have very little understanding of why, if it's working, if it's going to happen. You know what I mean? It kind of defeats the intention of inviting people back to court to get their equity relief that the legislature said they deserve. And it's just it's to me it's an exposure of so many inherent problems with the judiciary and the implementation of good intentions, which are very rare, right? It's not that often that the legislature does the right thing and passes laws to. I gotta give a little up to Gretchen on that. I don't know. Their fucking commissions.
This is what happens, right? When we let people who think people with criminal records, formerly incarcerated folks, are secondary people or secondary class citizens make fucking laws, right? This is the issue. When we have people that view drug offenders or drug users as a second class citizens making laws. And that's why it's important that you know who you're voting for and that you're voting for people that care about social issues that you care about. Because social issues are so much more than a personality quiz, right? They are really truly the lives of your neighbors. And this is stuff that affects them forever. And the best thing about Glenn is that we really understand that a lot of my friends are making millions of dollars doing the same fucking thing that these guys are currently and still bound to in terms of their criminal record or maybe even incarcerated, right? So that's who pays for this stuff is the cannabis companies, the guys that are currently making revenue streams doing the same things that these guys risk their whole livelihood. And we had to get really creative, right? So that's kind of the the biggest hurdle that we're experiencing at the Great Lakes Expungement Network is that it's never ending, and that people are consistently, every time somebody expunges their record, somebody calls me with like 4 other friends, and they're ready to expunge their record as well. And so the program, we've exhausted over $173,000 into the program over the past 10 months, and it has been fucking incredible.
Hey, so Joe,
I've never worked on anything. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. I didn't.
On anything with such immediate and life-lasting results, right? So, we'll talk a lot about how it doesn't go further and how we're frustrated with the system, but let's also talk about the fact that 64% of the people that go through the program, through us, through eligibility screening, are eligible for expungement in some way. That's revolutionary. That's incredible. That's a number we were never seeing 2 years ago. Let's also consider the fact that there are so many people that are taking the time, that are taking the chance, that are giving it a shot, that are applying, that there are literally 8-month backlogs, right? So if you're out here and you're trying to get an expungement, just because it's not now doesn't mean it's not never. 2 years ago, it was fucking never for most of us. It's worth the wait. This is real, lifelong. This is the chance for present parenting, which I think is what Michael was talking about earlier, and the ability to coach a little league team, the ability to create memories within your own family is incredible, right? But it's something that a lot of get a chance to do. For something that they did when they were 17 or 24, or something that they didn't do at all. That's the worst part about it. There's no way that everybody that goes through the criminal justice system is guilty of what they're charged with, right? The thing that I think is most important that Michael was talking about earlier was all of these non-crimes, these driving offenses, these traffic offenses that people have on their record forever, and it affects them later on in life. It affects them for eternity.
Hey, so just with just a few more minutes here. And Michael, unless you want to weigh in a little bit more about this, there's a couple of the things I kind of wanted Josey to get.
No, I think,
we got to take a break real quick.
We'll take a break and come back to a couple
Gotta
other.
and then we'll come back to Josey and Jaime.
Okay.
Additional topics.
Josey, can you hang out a couple more minutes?
Yes, I want to talk about my hash bash map this year.
And the DUI meeting tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the
not the good kind of Dewey.
Not
the kind of Dewey that everybody needs.
They're doing a legal and paralegal and educational seminar in Lansing.
All right, well, we'll come right back to
Okay, I was going to promote. Okay, all right.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael. I love it.
All right, we'll be right
Michael
back.
was
This
all
is
about
Planet Green Trees.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
When you're charged with a crime, you need a real attorney. And here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective: take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. One that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine. Attorney Michael Komorn. Knockout victories one case at a time. Komorn Law. Google it. komornlaw.com.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
Charged with a crime, you need a real attorney, and here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, administration, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective: take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. One that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine. Attorney Michael Komorn. Knockout victories one case at a time. Komorn Law. Google it. komornlaw.com.
Bill Schuette led the charge against medical marijuana, and even after the will of the voters was decided and the support was enormous, he still continued to fight against the will of the voters, keeping patients from the medicine that they need. So I think it's important that we all speak up on what we think about this initiative. But when the voters have their say, their will must stand.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Trees, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things cannabis and legal news.
Here's Michael Komorn with more Planet Green Trees.
Boy, we're back.
We got 10 minutes left, Michael. Let's keep it tight.
Keep it tight. If it ain't
Close
tight,
it
it
off
ain't
big
right.
with 10.
Are we back?
We'll do it live.
Keep this shit tight.
We're back.
We'll do it live.
Bucket.
I got 10 minutes,
Okay,
Jamie.
come on, let's tighten
Joe.
this up.
Are we back? Wait. Are we back on, Tommy?
Yep.
Okay.
Let's hit the DUI thing real quick, Joseph, and then
Hash bash.
get into the
then we gotta-
maps and hash
yep.
bash and so forth.
Okay, great. So tomorrow we are hosting a DUI expungement seminar for law students, legal professionals, attorneys, paralegals at Cooley Law School with Mary Chardonnay and the city of Lansing, the mayor is going to incent. We're super excited about that. It's from 1 until 3. This is one of many municipality partnerships we've been able to do over the past 10 months. We do have an upcoming expungement fair with the city of Benton Harbor on May 12th. We did do a expungement fair with the city of Kalamazoo August 12th of last year. We plan to do another one I think August 26th or August 27th of this coming year. So this is an incredibly unique opportunity for us. You know, we are a new organization for one, of course, but also like the president's like a felon and stuff. So we're not really getting invited to these like nonprofit association meetings, and so I'm really just so thankful for the city of Kalamazoo to really take a chance on us, and Mayor Anderson there to invest in us and really catapult this whole thing. Also, the city of Lansing has been very proactive about expungements, and they have a good chunk of change set aside every year to help people get their expungements. I think other places are doing that, like Ypsilanti, and the city of Grand Rapids as well. So that's exciting. We did do a expungement fair today at Farmhouse Wellness in Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids only social equity applicant, and really only local that's operating. And so I was so proud to be there. It's really in a great spot where a lot of the neighbors do have criminal records and need criminal record expungements. So that was a great resource.
This whole expungement phenomenon is like just cleaning up a big bureaucratic mess. That's what it is.
With more bureaucracy. With more bureaucracy.
Right.
That's how you solve bureaucracy, Michael, with more of it.
Well, I mean, the point is to clean up a mess, but there's some bureaucracy causing it to not get cleaned up.
You guys are right. Like simple use and possession should just be gone. I mean, automatic.
Yeah,
boom.
just
It is.
It will be.
It's not.
It's not though.
No, we are. I'm saying many of the petitions that we have submitted for possessions of marijuana are automatically enough to appear for a hearing. Courts are automatically signing the orders.
That's good. But I mean, I'm saying this should just be gone. No extra bullshit. So now talk about the hash bash thing.
So a part of the Great Lakes Expungement Network we've had to get really creative with how we raise money and how we spend money and the ways that we're reaching out to donors, especially with the crash and the market and everyone really feeling the tension in terms of small town operators or what have you. We have a lot of really cool things on the horizon, a couple partnerships with a couple great brands that you'll see us out in local store, in your favorite provisioning store with. But something that we're doing for Hash Bash is a scavenger hunt. So we have 6 different provisioning centers, 2 smoke shops, 2 restaurants. You get discounts at the restaurants, store credit at the smoke shops, and then penny gifts at each of the 6 provisioning centers. So that's $75 in just weed alone. The maps are $30 pre-sale. They're selling online at sonsanddaughtersunited.org/hashbash treasure hunt. Sorry.
And you can just go to sonsanddaughtersunited.org and find on the menu where it says treasure hunt too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so 100% of the money we raise at the Expungement Network goes directly into expunging records. We don't have any real overhead because we've been able to construct a team of volunteers that went through the program, which is pretty fantastic. In fact, this entire idea, this whole ordeal, the scavenger hunt was Crystal's idea. Crystal came to us for an expungement. She received her expungement, and she was like, "This is the shit." And now she's our membership director. So catch her out there on the streets. We are going to be at Hash Bash at the Monroe Street Fair, at the Diag, and also at the Hash Bash Cup. So make sure to catch us out there. These are available for purchase in Cureleaf, Balloon City, both in Ann Arbor, Apothecary, Arborside, Arbor's Wellness, Bongs and Thongs. So make sure that you go out there and purchase your map. You can also purchase it online as well. This is really, what we do is we go there and we don't really know what to do next, right? And we always want to see more of Ann Arbor, but I'm not sure where to start. So this is a great way to tour Ann Arbor like a local. Make sure you purchase your map soon, though, because there is just a limited quantity.
And so, they have all those discounts and gifts, and they're way overvalued, and that value includes cannabis, all that kind of stuff. And you can do that, as you need to with that thing once you buy it. But if you go take advantage of it during the Hash Bash weekend, you can then enter into the a pool,
a giveaway,
for a giveaway of up to these 4 prizes, and the grand prize is this weekend in Ann Arbor with taking the cannabis tour around. You get a hotel, a nice dinner, and stuff like that.
Sounds nice.
Yeah.
Plus a bunch of swag and some glass, I think.
Yeah,
other
my
stuff.
friends at 42 degrees.
Yeah, 42 degrees is making a piece for one of the prizes here.
That was the best thing about it, was to really, we went into this with an idea and not really a formal plan, and everybody was like, yes, this is amazing, let's do this. And this whole project has been built together, and it's been incredible. And that's really, every year Hash Bash is a big deal for the nonprofits out there. So if you're going out there, make sure you spend an extra $1, go look at their tables, go see what they're about, sign up for a membership. People may give to charities at the end of the year because it's holiday season and they're in the spirit, but likely it's because it's the end of tax season. So April is a hard time for a lot of us, so make sure that you're that you're going a little bit further to invest. If you need an expungement, please go to GreatLakesExpungementNetwork.org. You can sign up right there. If you have any questions about eligibility, you can run through our application process, and somebody usually gets back within the first 24 or 48 hours. Thank you guys for having me on the show today.
Right on. I happen to have some of those tickets in my car, some of those maps in my car right now. So everybody in this room has a rare opportunity
to buy
to want to get one and then go around all the different places in Ann Arbor and get some joints.
I do.
It's actually only for people that like free weed, so Jim Powers can't have any. So I'm super excited. It's a great way to support the network. People are constantly asking me how to get involved, how to get their friends involved. There's lots of volunteer opportunities available for Hash Bash Weekend, but also for the entirety of the program. So please sign up.
And there's a few available at Botanical Company too, in Lansing.
Yeah, true. And you can purchase these online at many of our partners' websites as well. So if you go to Arborside, and you can order that on Weed Maps, you can order it on Cureleaf's Weed Maps, you can order it on Bloom City Club's Weed Maps. So we're really trying to make it as accessible as possible. Also, it's really hard to visit 6 shops for $30. So this might be your shot to do so. Please, if you are going to the Monroe Street Fair, you're going to Hash Bash, make sure you stop by the Sons and Daughters booth. We are usually the ones smoking the most weed, so just follow the aroma. You'll catch Brenda smoking 6 joints at one time in the same hand.
If you want to challenge yourself, stop by and try to outsmoke Brenda.
Yeah, good luck.
Stop by, try to outsmoke Brenda Blaze.
All right, Jim, do you want to finish on time?
Yes.
We said we were going to keep it tight.
Thank you, Josey. That's awesome.
Thank you, Josey.
Thank you, guys.
Remember the old days when we had unlimited, we did the Blog Talk Radio, we had unlimited access to whatever music we want to play. I do like a Josey Go Home by Steely Dan for the outro.
Missed the music.
The outro.
It wasn't going to YouTube and stuff.
I know. For the outro, I'd pull that up right now. You know.
I missed the music.
Well, there's a lot of other. There's another Josey song, isn't there? That what are the other Josey songs? I know you know them all.
Outfield.
Yeah, Outfield.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Is there a Dolly Parton one or Jolene? Right.
Yeah.
Jack White covers that a little bit.
Jack White does it.
Right.
I'm really into the Josie Wales movies right now. Like, I'm a badass bitch, I think. Like, wow, Josie Wales. I'm into Clint Eastwood, man. What can I say?
Is the most popular Josey song the Steely Dan one?
No. I think it's probably the Outfield.
What?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, probably.
I think probably.
What's the other song by the Outfield that I might have heard of?
That's all you're
What's the
know.
other song by Steely Dan that I've heard of?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to know more Steely Dan.
I'm a child of the 80s. I love the 80s. It's still 80s, right? Isn't it?
It is. It's all 80s.
All right.
But one got significantly more airplay than the other.
There's another song that the Outfield does, Jim. I want you to.
I don't know what it is.
It is. Steve, come on. Jamie? It's about baseball. Is it about baseball? It has to be about baseball.
Yeah, put me in, coach.
No, that's Fogerty. That's a good song.
Especially the Creedence.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Is it the Jenny or something?
Jenny.
86753.
That's Tommy
No, that's
Two-Tone.
Tommy Two-Tone.
Tommy Two-Tone. Come on.
Yeah, we all know that one
All
around
right.
here.
Trying to take a stab.
Just spirit of keeping it tight.
Bye, Josie.
Bye, Josie.
All right.
please go get your record expunged. GreatLakesExpungementNetwork.org. Pick up a map. Give Jamie a call. He's hoarding all the maps right now. It's a good way to purchase a map without paying the tax. So hit up Jamie. Thank you guys so much.
See you, Josie.
Have a great day.
Thanks, Joe.
And
Map about. I wasn't really paying attention. What's the map about?
The map, real quick, has got discounts and gifts and things like that. Several
Free
places
joints and
around
stuff.
Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
and you have that if you buy it for $30, and then the money goes to help people get their records expunged. And if you decide to go get all those things during Hash Bash weekend, then enter to win some prizes.
Win the prize. One of which is a weekend
treasure hunt.
Yeah.
Weekend in Ann Arbor.
Is that a sanctioned
dinner and hotel and
is that a sanctioned sweepstakes? Because there's a lot of rules and laws about them.
Listen. Are you gonna? Well, I'm not involved.
Yeah, we thought about it for a while and then just did it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right.
Assuming that no one's complaining and who won, then you shouldn't have any problems. I'm just saying.
I just want to make one mention.
Legally speaking.
Here comes the lawyer.
Listen.
Putting a stop to the fun.
The lawyer around it.
Oh, that's
I wouldn't
then
say
it makes
necessarily
it
sign off. But,
it makes it
but
fine.
Kind of hanging around the edge.
They had a
I feel pretty good about it.
They had a professional duty.
There was a lawyer that specialized in driver license suspended that looked at it and said it was okay.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Said it was fine.
All right.
Let's
keep it tight. We're moving outside of tight.
We're way outside of tight.
I mean, because Jim had the audacity to suggest that the Josey outfield song was better than Steely Dan.
I didn't say it was better.
That would cause another hour.
It was more popular.
I'm just kidding.
Got more airplay.
I'm joking.
Come on, let's keep it tight.
All right, keep it tight.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
Budweiser.
Call it.
Right. Exactly.
All right.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
When you're charged with a crime, you need a real attorney. And here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective. Take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. One that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine. Attorney Michael Komorn. Knockout victories one case at a time. Komorn Law. Google it. komornlaw.com.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
I am attorney Michael Komorn of Komorn Law PLC, and you are watching Planet Green Trees.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org.
Before you plead, call me attorney Michael Komorn.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Trees, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things